Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today is going to be episode number 180 with Rouse from Reel Game Calls. And we're going to be talking about the Elk Reel, which is a handy new little elk call that I found while here in Colorado. They're manufactured right here in Gypsum, Colorado. About 15 minutes of the episode, for whatever reason in recording, didn't record. So you're going to hear the episode cut right in when I'm talking to Drew about his vast experience with big mountain backcountry skiing. And he's an adventure seeker and skis for Vail Resorts and is a phenomenal backcountry skier. So you're going to get to hear some of those stories and kind of the start of Reel Game Calls. Before we get to that, guys, I want to make sure you know that by using the J. Scott promo code, that's all one word, J. Scott, lowercase, at reelgamecalls.com, you get a 20% discount on all of the Elk Reel calls. So you can go on the website. It's a brand new website, reelgamecalls.com. Check it out. You get a 20% discount. And I want to thank Reel Game Calls for their sponsorship of this podcast. I'm looking forward to using this new elk reel in my arsenal of calls that I'm going to be using on my elk hunt here in Utah coming up. So also like to mention Go Hunt Insider is doing a 30-day free trial. You can go to gohunt.com/JScott and sign up for a free trial, be able to look at all of the Insider and go and check out all the statistics, all the harvest data, and get the full access of the Go Hunt Insider for free, a 30-day free trial. So make sure you check that out. You can also link to it in the show notes as well. Also, for Go Hunt Insider members, they're giving away this month of August. The Insider giveaway is 10 Kuiu sleeping bags. And each winner is going to be able to pick exactly which bag, temperature range bag that they would like from Kuiu. So that's a great giveaway. Every month, Go Hunt Insider's giving away great hunts, great gear, and this is no exception. 10 Kuiu sleeping bags. Guys, also in the show notes, the Outdoorsmans, there's a link to the Outdoorsmans. They're doing a 3-package giveaway, and package number 1 is a Swarovski X5 rifle scope of your choice with custom Outdoorsman's ballistic turret. Package number 2 is a new long-range pack with accessories, pod, bino harness, glassing pad, and rain cover. And package number 3 is Outdoorsman's tripod, adapters, and head of your choice. You can go to the show notes and link to how to enter in the drawing. It's a free giveaway. It's a 3-package giveaway. You can also go to the Outdoorsman's Facebook page or Instagram page for the link to sign up for that giveaway. I'd like to thank all of my sponsors at the J. Scott Outdoors podcast for all of their support, and I'd like to thank you guys, the listeners. And I just continually get emails every day from you guys, and just thank you for all the encouraging words and all the support. If you have any questions, you can email me at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. You can follow along my adventures at jscottoutdoors.com, my Facebook page, J. Scott Outdoors, my personal Facebook page, J. Scott, my Instagram page, J. Scott Outdoors, and my YouTube channel. All of those of which can be linked in the show notes, as well as right off my website, jscottoutdoors.com. So guys, let's get right to this episode with Rouse. And you're going to miss about 10 minutes of introduction where he talks about his background in skiing. I'm not sure how I lost it in the recording, but Drew is a very experienced backcountry skier and elk fanatic, and you're going to get to hear about this. So let's get right to the episode.
I should say side country, because it's right off the side of the resort. You kind of just take the lift up, traverse out of bounds, and then you're in the mountains on your own, and you can go wherever you want. So, I mean, that's generally what we do.
What is the deepest powder like that you've ever skied in?
I mean, I'm 5'8", so I've skied in snow probably 5'8" deep. I mean, if it sits there unsettled and then it snows a couple more feet on top overnight, I mean, literally, you can get up to your neck, up to your eyeballs in the snow.
That's unreal.
And it's like an outer worldly experience when it's like that, you know.
What is the term that's used? It's like in the white room or something.
The white room, yeah.
The white room when you're
in the white room.
There's just snow blowing. How do you see?
Sometimes you can't see. My business partner with the Real Game Calls, I watched him ski into a tree one day. He couldn't see, so it can get a little dangerous. But you know, I mean, that's part of it. So you just kind of try and get a glimpse of where you're going and try and go fast and stay above the cloud, I suppose. Yeah.
And as you make turns, do you kind of come up so you get a little visual and then you kind of drop?
Yeah.
Kind of bounce back down in and.
Yeah, and with the fat skis, a lot of times you can stay up above the snow, so you know you're really getting momentum. And as you make your turn, you're sinking in, you know, and getting that deep, or you're really trying to get yourself down into the snow. A lot of times when we shoot photos or whatever, that's the goal, is to get yourself immersed in the snow so it looks like they got a ton of snow. Yeah. So,
what's the worst accident you've had skiing?
I'd have to say that's tied. I fell down in Montana. I was skiing a couloir in the Free Skiing World Tour qualifier at Moonlight Basin, and I was skiing a couloir that had 3 cliffs in it, and I jumped the first one, landed, went to adjust my speed to go jump the second 2 as one jump, and I caught my edge on a rock, and I tumbled down the mountain and bounced probably 30 times, and I end up having to have microfracture surgery on the cartilage damage from my knee, and I hit my head a whole bunch of times, and that wasn't much fun. I ended up getting vertigo from that. And then there was another time at Snowbird, Utah. It was just a random accident. We had been up all night, and I used to drive a taxi cab, so we drove out to Utah for a contest, drove all night, skied the next day, and we went to go recheck all the airs that we had hit the week before, and at the end of the day, I just caught my edge going like 60 miles an hour and ended up airborne, flipping around in the air, landing on my back, and broke my neck and tore my ACL at the same time.
Goodness.
Yeah, so that was pretty bad. And
did they have to air evac you out?
Actually got up and skied to the bottom, walked to my car, and then took my ski boots off, and I was trying to see if my knee was blown out because I'd blown my other one twice, and then this one previous, this was my 4th ACL, and walking around just kind of dazed. I hit my head so hard. My friends were like, "What are you doing?" And they sat me down in the truck. I turned my head, and my arms started going numb. And so that's when I was like, I got to go to the hospital. And they were like, "Yeah, we've been trying to tell you, sit down." And I just hit my head so hard I didn't really know what was going on. And
how many years ago was that?
That was in 2011, 2010. So either it was 2011 or 2010. I'm not exactly sure at this point. And I injured myself so much.
How many fingers do I have up?
2, yeah, right? Yeah. So.
Falling and having injuries in skiing, does it make you not want to do it, or is it just part of it? That's one thing I can never understand with some of these sports where guys get hurt a lot and then they continue to do it. Fortunately, most of the things that I like to do, the passions that I have, aren't really like quote-unquote contact sports, and it's always a question I'd like to ask someone like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, when I got into it originally, it wasn't a thought in my mind that I was going to get injured, and then it just seemed like it became part of it, and I started having some success with my skiing, and I really loved to ski, so, it just seemed like a sacrifice that I'd have to make if I kept wanting to continue with it. And it was when I started seeing people die, though, that I was kind of like, well, is this worth it? Because I've seen a bunch of my friends die in avalanches, or in skiing contests, where they, anyways, it just started getting to where the cost of it's real high. And, that's why I really like elk hunting and deer hunting and fishing so much these days, is it's another way for me to have a passionate thing to pursue while not having my mom fret.
Yeah, worry if you're going to die or not.
Yeah, so.
Let's take a quick break here. Guys, the title sponsor of my podcast is GoHunt.com Insider, and they're doing a 30-day free trial exclusive for the J. Scott Outdoors podcast listeners. Go to GoHunt.com gowhunt.com/jscott and click on the blue free trial button and go through the steps. It only takes a couple of minutes. You will be required to provide a credit card, but you will not be charged until after the free 30 days. You can cancel at any time within the first 30 days to prevent being charged. If you have any questions at all, you can email freetrial@gowhunt.com and someone from the Go Hunt team will promptly respond. This is your opportunity to see what all the buzz is about and the Filtering 2.0 system and the application strategies for the Western hunter. PhoneScope is a company that makes custom-molded, precisely engineered smartphone digiscoping adapters. Photographing wildlife has never been easier. It is simple to text photos and videos from your smartphone and share them with your friends. PhoneScope stands behind their product with a 100% money-back guarantee. Get yours now by using the JScott16 promo code and receive 10% discount on all purchases. Check them out at PhoneScope. That's PhoneSkope.com or on Instagram at PhoneScope. One thing I noticed today fishing with you, first time ever fishing with you, we're floating down the river and there's all these shots, in these little buckets and under trees and like you're either going to hang it up on the bank or you're going to cast short or too far, but you're like going for it. And I think that speaks to your personality. I can just imagine how you ski or used to ski, both, just watching you fish, going for those, risk reward, no risk it, no biscuit type of shots. And it was cool watching you throw a fly, not really caring that there's a big overhanging limb and you got to throw it in a 5-inch window. Seeing you try and do that is pretty cool. I think it speaks for the person that you are and your personality. Do you think it's just something that do you consciously think about stuff like that, being, in extreme sports, or do you just let it all hang out?
I think that was just kind of my personality since I've been a little kid. I was always the middle brother. I had a bunch of older brothers, and, if you want to score a goal, you better shoot, and be aggressive or you're not going to get anything.
So it's kind of like an eat or be eaten.
Yeah.
Sit down to the dinner table, you better dang sure eat or else someone's going to eat your plate.
Yeah, but also I think it also has a lot to do with, I grew up fishing. I grew up on the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland, and I spent most of my life going to Florida to go fishing with my father. And there's a lot of mangroves down there and a lot of docks, and I think I'm just really used to that. Where you put it underneath the mangroves or you're not getting anything. So I think I really enjoy that and trying to put a fly in a challenging spot. I mean, anything challenging. I think if you're an elk hunter and you use a bow and arrow, well, you probably enjoy a challenge.
Sure.
So I think it's a lot of that and just being an aggressive kind of, if there's something there and I want it, I'm going to get it,
How did elk hunting come into your life, and, do you remember the first time you did it, and was it a conscious decision to say, I want to go hunting, or were you in a family that, you just started hunting, as a little kid and you don't even remember, or later in life and you just said, man, that looks cool, I want to do it? I'm curious how your passion for elk hunting started.
Well, I always wanted to hunt, and my family didn't really hunt, so I just never really had anybody to take me. I remember having a bow and arrow when I was a kid. My dad bought me a compound bow to shoot. So I got into archery as a kid, and always I remember seeing it was Jimmy Houston or Roland Martin on ESPN, and they called in a bull and shot it with a bow. And ever since I saw that, I was just like, that is something that I would be way into. And so I moved to Colorado to ski, and me and my little brother, we rented a house on the Colorado River, and our neighbors in the duplex had a bunch of elk, and they gave us a bunch of elk steaks. And I don't think it was very long after that I went and bought a rifle and decided I was going to take hunter safety. And then I started reading a bunch of articles that like Cameron Haynes wrote in Eastman's about bow hunting, and I can't wait to go rifle hunting. I'm going to buy a bow, and I'm going to go because it starts sooner. And I just got a bow and learned how to shoot, and took to the task of figuring out how to find an elk.
Yeah. So. And sometimes, even though Colorado here has the highest, density of animals probably for any state, you'll have to fact check me, but I'm pretty sure Colorado has more elk than any other state, they can still be a little boogery. I mean, over-the-counter units, and they get up high and they get pressured, and you've cut your teeth on some of the most beautiful elk country there is, but some of the most challenging elk as well.
Yeah, they're hard to find. I mean, they don't want to get shot, and it was quite the learning curve. I think that first year we hiked several hundred miles, and I finally got a shot opportunity at the end of the season, and my arrow hit a branch and went right over this 4x4's back, and he turned around and came back, and I shot him in the antler, and the arrow was where he was standing. And I just remember being like, how hard was that to find that one elk, where we hiked and hiked and hiked and looked and looked and looked. And before the season, we could find him no problem. But as soon as that season opened up, those elk went into hiding. And you can't help but respect how smart they actually are, how challenging it can be. Like you said, there's 285,000 elk in Colorado. You'd think they'd be all over the place.
Sometimes you'd think there's none.
Yeah. So
for the listeners out there, I know they're going to be hitting the woods here in about a week on the over-the-counter and even the draw units for elk. In general, what should someone that's coming from out of state, coming to Colorado, say that opening weekend at the end of August, is there a certain elevation that they should be looking at, or a certain terrain? Sometimes you hear, get as far away from a trail as you can, but then you hear someone saying, there's elk right by town. I'm just curious if you could give some general tips on, where do guys come and find elk?
Yeah, I mean, that's a multifaceted question. Where would you come if you were out of state? I would say evaluate your fitness. Okay, and if you're a fit individual, I would look on the steeper slopes, and I would look in spots where it was like, well, I really wouldn't want to hike there. That's where they're going to go, and...
Are they there now? That's just where they live? Or if they get any pressure, they go to the thickest, nastiest, steepest stuff?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of scouting. It seems like the elk are, generally where there'd be a nice, relaxing place to have a nice meadow to eat right now. But I think as soon as, and I think it's already started, with a lot of people get out there and do a ton of scouting, and they might inadvertently shoot themselves in the foot by going pressure in the elk before the season even starts. But they'll be in these really cushy, Hilton Resort type spots for elk up until they get pressured, and then they go and start getting in that dog hair kind of dark timber and steep, where they can dive off and just be gone at the slightest, twig breaking or something.
When the action starts, that first weekend in August, or I guess it's the last weekend in August, but the first part of the season, is it pretty uncommon to hear bulls bugling? And if so, when do you finally kind of start hearing them bugle more?
Well, see, it's been really intermittent. So some years it seems like they'll talk that opening day. If they're unpressured and they're happy, and I think that's the key is are the elk pressured and are they happy, And then if the cows are letting them breed, well, the bulls are getting excited no matter what. So I've had it both ways where you haven't heard a peep for 2 weeks, or you just opening morning you couldn't sleep in your tent because they were bugling so much.
Really?
So I've had that, on several occasions, and it just seems like all of a sudden off the start of the season, it's just on fire. I think last year I must have heard 100 bugles on opening day, and I nearly shot a real big herd bull that was with 8 cows. And
first day of the season,
just needed another second for him to stand there. I ranged him, and I was getting ready to draw, and he took a step off, and then that was my window. But it was the first day of the season, and he was with 8 cows. I think 4 of them were calves, and they were doing their thing, mewing and making a racket, and I got right in on them. And that's bow hunting though. You just you get those fleeting opportunities, and sometimes it's not meant to be. But 2 years ago, I don't remember hearing a peep for the first week. So
gotcha. And then is the last week of the season by far like way more bugling, or does it like go from not a lot of bugling, then the middle of the season, tons of bugling, and then it tapers, or do they carry on through does it get better and better and better every day?
I think it just depends on how the mood is of those bulls that, they're generally going to be young bulls around here. So they're happy to bugle and stuff, but they get pressured and then they don't want to talk, they call people in. And I just think that it just really depends on the mood of the bull on that day, whether he's going to bugle or not. And some years I felt like towards the end of the season they didn't talk at all, and some years they've ramped it up. But I have my own theory is that when the bulls are getting bred, they will let off a bunch of steam, and I think that's generally if they're breeding.
You mean when the bulls are breeding?
Yeah, when they're getting to breed, they're going to bugle because they just lose their minds.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. That bull that I shot last year, I figured he was breeding cows that day that I shot him, and that's why he was so aggressive. So
okay, I was while you were talking, I was looking on your Instagram, and guys, you need to go check out Rouse, Drew.Rouse on Instagram. There's a picture of you with an absolute giant velvet mule deer. I mean, the thing looks ridiculous. So not only do you love elk, but you like high country mule deer as well?
Yeah, I'd say high country mule deer is a really bad disease that I have.
Well, when you see a buck like this, holy smokes.
Yeah, I mean
200, what was it?
It scored 222 was the green score, and
just an incredible buck.
Yeah, he was on Monster Muley's homepage for a month, and he was on Field and Stream's homepage for a month, and they did a big article on my buck, and that was a really cool experience.
So what have you seen here in Colorado? You've been here a long time. What have you seen the mule deer do as far as, like, I've shot a bunch of mule deer here in Colorado, and then I believe the winter of '07, wiped them out, wiped the numbers. A lot of the bucks got killed. What are you seeing now? Have they really rebounded? Do you think they're what they were before the die-off? Or
yeah, I think that the Division of Wildlife has done a really good job managing the mule deer herds. Everything's draw here in Colorado. I'd sure like to see the elk go draw. I'm sure that maybe not super popular opinion, but with the mule deer, they've done such a good job of managing it that you can go anywhere in Colorado in any unit and you got a chance to shoot a giant buck, and I think that's a testament to the Division of Wildlife doing a fantastic job with the management. Lately, last few years, they're out there. They're not going to be easy to find, and then they're smarter than you'd believe. But those big bucks are out there, and they've been managed for, and it's really outstanding to have the opportunity to, I got a picture of a buck probably goes around 240, 250 that I got pictures of last fall, and I've already got pictures of him this year. So I mean, that kind of opportunity.
Yeah,
that's all I need.
Yeah. So. Let's take a quick break here. I have known the owners of the Outdoorsmans in Phoenix for over 20 years. They are the authority on optics and hunting gear. Outdoorsmans is the leading designer and manufacturer of high-quality tripods, mounting accessories, and pack systems for all hunters. Their customer service is the best in the business. Go to outdoorsmans.com or call 1-800-291-8065 and use the J. Scott promo code to receive 10% off any products. Utah Hydrographics is in the water transfer printing service, and they can dip almost anything into a wide range of camo patterns, designs, and colors. Whether it's guns, bows, tools, rifle stocks, vehicle parts, steering wheels, cups, or tripods, Utah Hydrographics loves taking things that are general looking and turn them into something that looks fantastic. Give them a call and see what they can do for you and receive up to a 10% discount by using the JScott16 promo code. Visit them at utahhydrographics.com or on Instagram at Utah Hydrographics. All right. Now let's get to the moment of truth. I want to talk about this little gem right here. I've got in my hands Elk Reel, and it is an unreal call. I cannot wait to use it this elk season. And I want to ask Drew here, how did you come up with this call? And when did you finally know that you really had something special?
So this will be the 4th year that I've hunted with it. So I came up with it in the summer, 3 summers ago. So
Okay.
it's been 3 years. And I was driving a cab, and me and my friend were like, well, let's make a better elk call. You know, I'm sick of these calls that are all bulky, these bugles. And he wanted to make one that you could put in your pocket that was a bugle. And so we started down this road together, and we're like, wait a minute, we need something to make the noise with. So I own Grace skis, and I didn't own the majority of it at the time, and now I'm the majority owner. But the original owner suggested that I use some modeling foam and come up with a prototype. I tried to get him to help me, and anyways, I got some foam. I decided that you could take the mouth reed out of your mouth and put it in a device that would make it easier to play. And so I kind of set out to design something that you would put a reed in and then blow through it, and you'd be able to manipulate it really easily. And just kind of hit on it right away. Made this hinge call design, put a reed in it, put a spring in it. Went up to my friend's house, and I think it was 3 days into trying to do the process, I went and called in my first elk. And that's kind of when I was like, this has got some potential. You know, I went out into his yard and bugled with it and did some cow calls. You know, next thing you know, we walked in the house, and down the driveway comes this lonely cow, and we said, all right, this has got something. So, and then that first season, I shot probably a 6x7 that was so big and ended up losing him. But I mean, that was also a part of the product development. The call now fits in your mouth. That bull took a step. I decided to let him take a step, and I should have never let that arrow go. I had him at 20 yards at full draw, and I should have just shot. When I had the shot, I had a little window, and I decided to let him take a step. And when I let him do that, he spun, and I hit him real far back. So I will never shoot at another walking elk, and that's why this thing fits in your mouth, and it's so good for stopping elk.
So the prototype did not fit in your mouth.
No.
And you had to actually hold your hand.
Yeah.
You couldn't just put it in your mouth like you can now.
It would get crushed. It was made out of foam.
Gotcha.
And it wouldn't sustain biting on it. Gotcha. So you were manipulating it with your fingers and blowing through it. And they sounded really good. They sounded really nasally, but they were very fragile.
Gotcha.
And I would go home at night and make like 3 or 4 more. And every day we'd break them. And then we'd go out the next day. And so every night I'd stay up and make calls, and the next day we'd go test them. And that's kind of how we got started with it. And then after the season, I decided this has to be durable. So I spent the next year trying to figure out how to make it into its current state, which is, you know, made of wood with pins that hold the reed in. And, you know, I've tested them by throwing them at the wall. I left them on a piling in Florida for 60 days to see with the sun and the heat and stuff. So we did a lot of product development.
I saw you just posted on Instagram, the Real Game Calls Instagram page. You dipped it. You were fishing either in Florida or out on the Chesapeake Bay, I'm not sure where, but dipped it right in the salt water when you were moving in a boat. And immediate that one you got right there.
Yep.
Immediately started making cow sounds with it, and to me that's unbelievable, because most elk calls, you get them wet, they get real finicky, and you know, that's you know, the external calls, and you know, some of the things that we've been used to for many years can get really, really touchy.
Yeah, 2 pieces of plastic, when you get them wet, you know, they don't have the same friction that they did when they were dry. And so that was one of the things that, as we were going into this, we thought, you know, let's try and make it so it's not affected by the normal problems that afflict elk calls, you know, moisture, and like an unpredictability, if you will. So
Sure.
We wanted to make a predictable call that every single time you blow it would be reliable, for obvious reasons. I mean, you spend I said I lost 20 pounds. Well, that didn't just happen, you know, and I'm doing that so I can kill an elk, and spending all summer shooting. You put all this effort, and, you know, you wait all year, and you get that one opportunity, and you blow your call, and it makes a funny noise. And to me, that's, you know,
That's a killer.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real bummer. So, you know, I tried to make something that in that moment of truth would perform.
Well, I want to have you demonstrate the Elk Reel, and I want you to show me the versatility of the call. And that's one thing, I mean, I think that's unreal about this call is you can make lots of sounds, but it's to me, it's the easiest, good sounding call that I've ever heard. Meaning, someone could walk through the door right now and you give them literally a 30-second little, okay, push, bite and do this, push and blow.
Yeah.
And they're making elk sounds.
Yeah.
So to me, and the fact that it just fits in your pocket. I mean, like, you fished with yours in your pocket all day. I'm like, you got your call? And you're like, yeah, right here in this pocket, and you're fishing,
Yeah. I mean, it fits in your pocket, and I mean that's one of the things when we designed it originally, we wanted it to be compact. I mean, we spend, you're hiking 10 miles into the wilderness. You don't need to carry anything else with you. It's already hard enough. So we figured that the smallest it could be, light, compact, that was an original thought when we were going into this, is like, that's something that we'd like to have. So me and my friends, it's a good reason that it makes real good sense to have it be small and compact and light. So
let me hear just maybe a couple cow mews. What have you noticed this call compared to other calls that you've used as far as the way that the elk react? Like, I can't wait to just get out there and blow. Is it a noticeable difference of realism and they just fire off and cows answer back?
Yeah, when I shot that 6x7, I called in all of his cows and they all walked past me, and it's the audible variable in volume too. So it's a really realistic sound, but the cows will come in and they'll be looking at you and you'll go, and they'll stop, and they'll be looking at you and you go, and they'll start walking toward you, and you're a person going, I might be onto something with this, and there's a video on our Instagram where my friend Ramon calls in a bull for a gentleman with his muzzleloader, and he calls him in, and they can see Ramon and he can see the guy with his muzzleloader. And I wish I knew the gentleman's name. I asked Ramon what his name was, and he said he didn't know. And anyways, so he filmed it, and he comes in, and the muzzleloader misfires. And so the bull's watching all this. And the guy drops his gun, starts loading in another cap, and maybe 45 seconds go, and these guys are moving and not behind any trees or nothing.
Right.
And here's a 355 bull staring at him, can't figure it out. And Ramon's just sitting there doing his assembly mew, going every so often, and the bull is just dumbfounded. So they're just not used to, the sound. I think it's just the realistic sound or whatever it is. I mean, I'm not a biologist, but I know that when you get close to these elk and you start blowing this thing, they just start reacting in a way that I wouldn't seen before. I hunted 5 years before I killed my first bull, and I killed him with an I Make It a Bull Crazy, and the Primos call, the double reed call, hyperlip double, and the hyperlip single, and that's what I used to carry around. And then they worked, but it wasn't like, I had this magical power to stop elk and then have them come back towards me. And once we had that high nasally pitch, and it was like magic. So I mean, we used to think about calling this the elk magnet.
Yeah, so. I love the name Elk Reel, though. It's just such a perfect name. Let me hear you get a kind of loud and nasally with that call.
Like that kind of real calfy kind of sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that it'll do. That if you can do that with another elk call, I've been looking for one. So
that you hit some tones and you hit some notes, and the calls that I've been messing with, I cannot wait to get in the elk woods and see the reaction, because I think there's some added realism there that no other calls you can't seem to get with any other call.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it. I think the audible volume difference too is like, when you start out, and you kind of fade away.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? My girlfriend's leaving, so I'm going to go follow her.
Yeah.
So if you can make that bull think that you're 100 yards past where you're standing, you're going to have a lot more fun calling elk by yourself. So,
have you had equal response from cows as you have from bulls, or would you say that you actually the cows just go nutso on? I mean, is there one or the other, or both the same?
I mean, yeah, both the same, but the cows react to it differently than, I mean, bulls will react to a cow call. Where I hunt, it's a 15-year-old cow that's gonna mess up your hunt. You know, you're trying to call in a bull with 8 cows. Well, one of them's seen everything under the sun. So to fool her, I mean, she hears something she doesn't like, she's gonna grab her bull and leave, and that's her instinct. And you know, you can't blame her, because you know, I like to eat elk, so you're probably smart to leave. But yeah, I mean, we've called in bulls and cows, and I think that's, if you're hunting herd bulls, I think that's a big thing. You're not going to call the bull away from his ladies, especially if he's got 30 ladies. I mean, think about it. Guys know. So if you can call his girls in, you know, and I've seen some of your guys' videos from Arizona, you call in the ladies and the bull comes in following him, that's ideal. So, and then you just got to keep the wind in the right direction. So,
for sure. The Elk Reel, one of the things that's pretty cool too about the Elk Reel is, I mean, it's not affected by temperature, cold or hot.
Yeah, no, the rubber we use has a operable range of -30 to 110 degrees Celsius. So basically, you know, it can get up to 230 degrees Fahrenheit and nothing affects it. So we haven't found anything that affected it so far. And we've done, you know, think about what I've done to my own body. I'm pretty good at testing stuff. So
putting stuff through the ringer.
Yeah, I mean, I actually just got a gig product testing for Under Armour, so I'm really excited about that. You know, like, this whole product design testing thing has turned into something on its own, and I'm really excited about all of it. So
that's awesome. When does your season start here?
Next Saturday, August 27th, season opens.
How are you going to get any time to hunt? Because you're selling the Elk Reel as fast as you can make them. I mean, you're selling unbelievable amounts of these calls, but there's got to be some product testing there, doesn't there?
I think that's you know, in order to stay an authentic, real brand, you know, and how can I not go hunt? I have to. So I'm planning on hunting every morning and then trying to deal with it the best that we can. My business partner Ben's really great, and so between the two of us, we're just going to man up and deal with the demand and try and make sure that everybody who wants to get an elk call can get an elk call. So
good.
Yeah.
Good, and I want to make sure the listeners here at the J. Scott Outdoors podcast know that if they use the J. Scott promo code, they get 20% off on the call.
Yep, you'll get you'll get 20% off of the call when using that promo code, and you know, there's no quantity limitations. You can get as many as you want, and people have been asking a lot of questions about the different kinds of wood. So I'd maybe cover that real quick. The Ziricote wood is from Central America, and it's fairly expensive, but it's got a really dense grain that you can't get from a wood from up here. So it's a little bit more expensive. It's the one that does sound slightly different than the other varieties of North American wood. So if you're going to get 2 calls, try and get one of the ones that's a Ziricote and then pick one of the other ones. That way you can sound like a multiplicity of elk. I think that's something that's really helpful. So,
what other types of wood are more indigenous here to North America that you're using?
We use maple and we use oak, and we've experimented with some other things, but I think the real key is the density of the wood dictates the vibrational capabilities of the call. So, you know, the denser the wood, the more it has this resonation to it, and the lighter grained woods tend to have a little bit more vibrational capability. So, yeah. But like, it's, you know, elk have different voices. So, you know, a couple different elk, they're all going to sound slightly different. So it's a nice touch to have calls that kind of sound like slightly off, you know, where you can imitate mom and you can imitate the calf, or you can imitate 2 calves, you know, and sound like a whole herd, and just be one guy with 2 little things in their hand, and you know, sounding like different kinds of elk, or, you know, different elk. So.
For sure. I think being versatile is huge. And, you know, let's say you get into a group of elk and maybe they wind you or they blow, and you want to be able to maybe get on them again, perhaps maybe change up the sound just a little bit. It's always huge to have a little bit of a versatility.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. If they do hear the call, then they might get used to it. So being able to sound, like saying whatever you want in elk speak. You've been doing those episodes with Chris Rowe, and those have been really informative, where he talks about the different kinds of vocalizations and the different kind of inflections and emotions that the elk put into their call. And I think our call really lets you get into that, where you're like, I'm gonna put some emotion into it. You're gonna try and sound a little raspier on this note, or a little bit more desperate.
Sure.
So I think that's been pretty huge.
One thing I think that you've been doing too that's really cool is on your Instagram page, you've been doing a lot of videos and, kind of how-tos and, using the call in different ways and showing how versatile it is. I want to encourage the listeners out there to go to Real Game Calls on Instagram, as well as your website is...
It's elkreel.com right now, and we're going to launch our new website, realgamecalls.com, here very shortly. We're going to branch out. It turns out if you make a replacement for a mouth reed, it works for all kinds of animals. So at some point here, I'll be releasing a turkey call that's really easy to use. It's really small, compact, and light, but right now we're concentrating on the elk.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is like the first year since all the patents and everything are completed. This is the first year that you've put it out to the public and you've been selling calls, and so you've had an overwhelming success, just people buying them from all over the country. Your expectation over the next couple months as these elk seasons in the West progress is you're going to get all sorts of feedback, photos, content, what have you, from people that have bought the call.
Yeah, I'm going to be making a lot of friends. You help someone shoot a big bull elk, and they're your buddy real quick. So, I'm really excited to see how people do with it. I mean, we've been sending out to a bunch of outfitters and all the people that have bought them. I really like to thank everybody for their support. And, that's been one of the most fun things about it, is just talking to fellow elk hunters and people that are really passionate about hunting and getting to do that for my job. I mean, someone just pinched me because I'm probably dreaming on getting to do this on a daily basis, and it's just been awesome. So I can't wait to see the kind of results that we get this year, and try and build on what we've done this fall. And like Jay said, this is the first year that we've released it. Last year I sent out some samples, and we did really, really well as far as a numbers percentage wise. I'm not going to put a number on it, but this year there's a lot of calls out there, and people are going to be really excited.
Yeah. It's going to be great to watch over the, for sure the first couple weeks of the season as stuff starts filtering in and pictures. And I mean, what the call will do because you've been doing it for 3 years. Sure. You know what success people are going to have. So it's going to be cool to see, I know some of the people that have bought calls, and it's like, can't wait to see a picture and see the look on their face.
I can't wait to see what you do with it in Utah. So I know you're going out to the beaver unit, and you're gonna have a lot of fun with that call.
Yeah, so. I know that Chris Rowe has a couple, and I have some, and I can't wait to get out there and actually get some interaction and see their reaction, because I'll play a series and then listen to it back, take it with my phone or record it, and I'll listen to some of the sounds, and it's just the call makes some real sounds that no other call actually does. Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest, if you want to learn how to call elk, I would join Chris Rowe's elk module, and I would listen to a lot of real elk. And I wouldn't listen to people that call elk, play their calls. And I think that's a big mistake. A lot of people, they listen to people imitating elk, but you're not listening to a real elk. And so I think that's one of the benefits of living in Avon and being a skier, is I've been completely surrounded by elk for 16 years. Anytime I go hiking somewhere, I can get into some cows talking. I have a shed hunting dog, and I'm real passionate about that with my dog. So we end up, you hear things in nature, and then you go home and you play your elk calls, and you're like, well, I'm trying to solve a problem here of why this doesn't work as well as you would think it would work. So, listening to a lot of real elk is the key. And like you were saying, the call makes a really realistic impression. Some of the sounds they make that you can't really imitate with another call. So
that's one thing, Drew, that we didn't talk about. You not only makes unbelievable cow sounds, but you can actually bugle on this call too.
Yeah, I mean it's not the loudest bugle in the world, but it's extremely realistic and it's really easy to use. So if you're used to using some other kind of bugle where you're maybe not getting the most accurate sound, this will really help you out. You can do a lot of growling with it, a lot of voice inflection where the bull's going to be kind of going. He's doing that kind of like sounds that they do. So it does that really well, and it does a lot of the, the grumbly, growly kind of stuff. And you can get real high pitched with it, and do your kind of spike calf, or not calf, but your immature bull bugle. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty versatile in that regard. So yeah, if you're having trouble using a mouth reed or using another kind of bugle, this is the ticket because it's simple. I had a girl, she never used an elk call, and I had her bugling in about 2 minutes. So,
cool.
Yeah.
That just shows how easy it is to use.
Yeah, it's super easy to use. We're going to have some of those videos up on our Instagram, just people that have never used an elk call, and we videoed them using the Elk Reel, and they sound pretty good. Think about this: who would you take hunting after using an elk call for a couple of minutes? And if you give them an elk reel, and they'll be able to fill that role. Yeah. So, especially if you have buddies or something that can't call, he needs a present.
And you can supply that present.
That's right. So
sounds good. Well, like I said, thanks for coming down, and thanks for supporting the podcast. And I can't wait to get this call out in the woods. So we'll be, I'm sure, bouncing texts and emails back and forth, some videos here over the next month. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's about to be that time of year, the best time of year. So
awesome. It's been awesome having you here. I had a great time fishing with you today, and I really appreciate you being a sponsor of the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Appreciate that support, and I've gotten great feedback from listeners that have already bought the Elk Reel, and I can't wait to see the photos and videos float in here over the next month or two throughout the season. And I want to wish you the best of success with your archery elk season that you have coming up. And I kind of want to end on, what's your favorite way to eat elk?
My favorite way to eat elk is I like to cut them up into little cubes and saute it in some butter with some salt and pepper.
So pretty simple. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Ben, my business partner, his mom, they grew up deer hunting, and that's how she cooks the tenderloins, and yeah, that's my favorite way, honestly. Just something real
like
simple.
Little medallions.
Cut it into little cubes and saute it so it cooks real even, real quick. And I'll cut the backstrap into little pieces, and that's just my favorite way. Either that or, elk burgers. Who doesn't like elk burgers?
Yeah. I just like throwing a little salt, pepper, a little olive oil, and throwing it on the grill, and about 3.5 minutes on each side, and just nothing like it.
Yeah, I took some elk down to Florida. My buddy, he's from Philadelphia, and he couldn't believe how good it was. So hopefully, I think I'll have him out here trying to get his own elk here before too long. So
awesome. Well, thanks. God bless you, and thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming down here and spending some time with me today. And for the listeners out there, go to elkreel.com. Make sure to check out Drew and his company on Reel Game Calls on Instagram as well as Facebook also, right?
Yeah, we're on Facebook and we're on Instagram, Reel Game Calls. And like I said, we'll have our new website up right now. It's just elkreel.com. So but I really appreciate you taking me fishing today, man. I had an awesome time. And thank you.
Look forward to it next summer.
Yep, absolutely.
Sounds good.